Greetings to one and all. Welcome to Law Prep Tutorial. I'm your mentor, friend, and guide, Harsh Vardhan Sir. And today I'm again back with a very interesting video how to read editorials effectively. And through them, you will be able to prepare for CLAT better. So, there would be obviously a series of videos that I'll be posting on important areas that are seen repeatedly in the newspaper, which have very high percentage of chance to appear in your CLAT examination, right? Most of the time students read, but they are not able to process that information. They are not able to figure out what areas are important. How do we figure out the main concern? How do we figure out the main arguments? And from that, basically the questions of inference, assumptions, weakening arguments, strengthening arguments, all of that follows. Interestingly, these editorials can also appear in your legal knowledge section as well as in your current affairs section. And lately, what we are observing as a matter of trend in CLAT examination is that in current affairs, they're asking inference based questions also. So, we need to be very, very vigilant. We need to be very, very observant with respect to these editorials and the trends which are being set forth, or you can say which are being published in these newspapers. Doesn't matter, you read the Hindu, you read Indian Express, you read Times of India, you read Hindustan Times, it doesn't matter at all. Trust me on this part. This is not a UPSC examination where if you read Times of India, selection nahi hoga या कुछ vital information रह जाएगी. The point here is that you read these editorials in whichever newspaper they publish, read them agenda wise, and have an approach and understanding on these areas. For instance, I have a very interesting editorial to discuss with all of you today, from a rules based world to shambolic disorder. Now, this was published in the Hindu. Obviously, those who read the Hindu must have seen this, must know this. Now, the moment you read this particular title, right, are you aware about the meaning of the word shambolic? What exactly does shambolic means? Right? So, first things first, we need to figure out the meaning of this word right there and then, the moment we come across this editorial. The meaning is chaotic and disorganized. Let me give you a brief gist about how to go about these editorials. The basic catch, the basic trick first is to read the title, obviously, followed by this, read the introduction paragraph. Read the introduction paragraph and figure out what exactly is the author trying to talk about. M.K. Narayan, none, he is a former director of Intelligence Bureau and former National Security Advisor. So obviously his viewpoints are very, very critical and very, very pertinent to take note of. Followed by this, you need to focus on the conclusion part and you need to connect, because whatever arguments that the author is giving is with respect to connecting introduction to India. Now, introduction is about global uncertainty. Introduction is about global uncertainty, and later on author connects it with India. Meanwhile, there are certain arguments that author is giving, so we need to find those arguments. We need to find out those areas that author is trying to publish. Now again, author has given a comparative standard. So very first step is that identify the main concern of the author. Now, if you read the introductory part in this particular article and you read the conclusion part in just 2 minutes only, you will be able to figure out the main concern. The main concern here is global positioning, basically of bilateral relations, of how areas of conflict are going to determine new areas of convergence and new areas of divergence, and how United States of America and China, the two rivals right now who are at conflict with each other in different areas, is basically setting a world of turmoil, and everything is in very languishing condition across the globe. And all of this you will identify in first 2 minutes only, that the main concern of the author is. This is the very important. The moment you read any passage in CLAT for that matter and you read the first paragraph, you need to figure out after all what this topic is going to be all about. So there are two ways to do it. First, if you are a very well-read person who has a habit of reading these articles, reading newspapers, you will be able to figure out from first paragraph itself, right? From first paragraph itself. So this can be applied to editorials and you can connect it with conclusions. But let us say there is a passage in CLAT examination that you don't know about. So what you can do is you can analyze it through questions. Analyze it through questions and options. Okay, and this will only take not more than 30 to 40 seconds, that you will just read only two questions along with their four options each, and you will be able to figure out, okay, this passage is about what. Just two questions, four options each in these two questions, and you will get the main concern or the main focus area of a particular passage. And this saves a lot of time, because जैसे ही पैसेज आपको पता है जियोपॉलिटिकल है, आप उस डायरेक्शन में सोचना स्टार्ट करते हो. साइकोलॉजिकल है, यू विल थिंक यार इसमें कुछ भी इंटरप्रिटेशन निकालना पड़ेगा. फिलोसॉफिकल है, देन यू नो दैट इसमें टाइम लगेगा थोड़ा सा. लीगल है, देन इट बिकम्स वेरी वेरी इजी बिकॉज यू आर ऑलरेडी अवेयर अबाउट सो मेनी थिंग्स. सो that will always help you. Moving forward, second thing that you need to figure out is that you need to relate that particular concern with the title and think about possible areas which come to your mind, because you have studied the entire issue since past few months, and in CLAT also you have studied it for over a period of 6 to 12 months. So what could be the possible areas that author is talking about? So what you will do during CLAT day, on your CLAT day, what you are going to do is you are going to put everything that you have practiced, and that is why it's a matter of practice, it's a matter of routine, and you need to do it daily. Do it daily with at least 4 editorials. Okay, just think what are the possible areas that the author would be talking about. If he is talking about global geopolitical scenario, what are the areas that he could be talking about? So global geopolitical scenario obviously cannot be discussed without discussing Russia-Ukraine conflict. It cannot be even discussed without thinking about what is going on, what Israel is doing right now. It also cannot be discussed without Iran in context, right? It also cannot be discussed global geopolitical scenario with respect to climate crisis, what is going on in the Arctic Circle. It will be discussed using that. It cannot be discussed without sea lanes of communication, which means trade through oceans. Okay, it cannot be discussed without that. And some sort of defense would be involved, some sort of conflicts would be involved around islands, right? Recently you are seeing Senkaku Island. Now Senkaku Island is again coming in news, and it's a conflicted area between Japan and China. Conflict is again emerging in this particular region. Before few months it was Thomas Shoal, and this particular area is in conflict between China and Philippines. China and Philippines, right? Then you also possibly hear about Nagorno-Karabakh, that is between Armenia, Azerbaijan, right? There are Ethiopia, Eritrea are in conflict, Sudan, South Sudan, and a lot of these areas. So it cannot be without defense conflicts, and obviously it cannot be without economics. So these are the areas that the author might discuss, right? In this coming editorial that we are going to discuss. And obviously this analysis, this discussion is going to be a little slow, so be with me throughout this. And now then, the common approach is read the introductory paragraph. In this case, let us try to read this particular paragraph. So you can just pause the screen, zoom in, and just read this. Okay, even prior to the Trump interlude in the United States, there were enough signs that the world was witnessing uncertainty across many sectors. Now author says even prior to Trump, यानी Trump के आने के पहले, there were all vital signs that the world was witnessing uncertainty across many sectors. Uncertainty across many sectors includes not just territorial sectors, economic sectors, for that matter political sectors, cultural sectors, and so on and so forth. This was a heralding of problematic conditions in many areas of the globe, and policymakers, strategists, and business leaders. Notice the word policymakers, strategists, and business leaders. They had begun to prepare. They had begun to prepare for more difficult times ahead. Some did, however, due to the view that new analytical tools and strategic methodologies which were in use would help mitigate the levels of uncertainty in course of time. Okay, so there were factions who were already preparing for the worst to come, but some of them were there. They had that particular view that the new tools, the new strategic methodologies which are basically being used, which is basically causing the disruption, they will help us reduce the levels of uncertainty in course of time. So there were two viewpoints already existing. Leader-led disruption. Notwithstanding this, the majority adhered to the view that recent shifts in global hegemonies, the spate of disruptive technologies, and also prevailing geopolitical tensions were certain to herald more disruption, accompanied by an increase in geopolitical tensions and economic tsunamis. So, among the factions of the views, there were majority who held this particular view that the recent shifts that is going on in global hegemonies. What is hegemony? It means domination, absolute domination, right? The speed, there are disruptive technologies which are present. There is a political, geopolitical tension which is also prevailing. They were certain to bring forth more disruption, accompanied by more tensions and more economic tsunamis, which means economic uncertainties, which means the majority of the viewers were already prepared, were already aware about this, that this is going to happen, this is bound to happen. The general consensus, hence, is that the given influence wielded by leaders such as Xi Jinping of China, Vladimir Putin of Russia, Donald Trump in US, not excluding the role of leaders such as Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky, intent on disrupting the existing order, there is little hope of change for better. Now, author ends at a very grim note, at a very sad note, right? Author is ending at a very grim note that there is no possibility that the global order is going to be any more peaceful. He is basically saying that the existing order is going to be disrupted, and most of the disruption is being caused in today's world primarily by big leaders of big economies and big countries. And after this, let us say you have read this at your home, please try to summarize this. Summarize it para by para. Now, summarize it means make your notes. Make your notes. Most of the teachers might advise you against this. Do we have to make notes out of editorials? See, note making out of editorial and writing a summary out of editorial are two different aspects. I am discussing about writing a summary out of these editorials. Because when you write a summary, you don't have to write what you think or what you perceive out of that editorial. What you need to write exactly is what the author is saying. So you need to break down the given piece of information exactly in the same format, with the same context, the same meaning that author is implying, and do not cook your own words, add your own colors to the particular passage. The moment you will start putting this to practice, putting pen to paper, your mind will start thinking and processing information in that manner. Because in CLAT examination, every question follows with this line: according to the passage, according to the information given in the passage, according to the author. They do not ask, what do you think? Give me suggestions and give me your opinions. So you need to follow the suit of this examination. You need to fall in line with the intent of this examining body, that they want you to understand what is given in the passage. So how to do it? So there is a very short summary that I would have created out of this. Now, I would have created it as background that even before Trump's presidency, right, global uncertainty was visible. Policymakers and strategists and business leaders, all of that had anticipated. There was a prediction of the difficult global conditions despite new analytical tools being available. Now, what are the drivers of disruption? So there is a shift in global hegemonies. There is an emergence of disruptive technologies. There is rising geopolitical tensions. And the role of global leaders like these leaders is primary, and they are basically the disruptors of the existing international order. Along with this, the consensus view is this, that the world is headed for more disruption, both geopolitical and economic, and hopes for positive stability or positive change are minimal under current leadership dynamics. So I have not created any viewpoint that I think is there, but rather what author is trying to say. And you got to practice it daily. You got to practice it daily. You might not be perfect. Get hold on to teachers like me who are present in your centers to review your seminaries. I have done it with Jodhpur kids, and I am also ready to do it with Madhya Pradesh students who are in Bhopal and Indore. Luckily, we have also started a center in Indore. So if you want this particular kind of guidance and you want offline guidance, if you're studying from online, LPT, or for that matter, any institution, and you are located in Madhya Pradesh or anywhere across country, you can come down to Indore center and I'll train you on this part, which is the most vital way to crack CLAT, right? So get on to hold of your critical reasoning teachers, logical reasoning teachers. They're also well equipped with this kind of information, provided that they are those teachers who read newspapers on a daily basis and who understand these issues, who understand the nitty-gritties of these issues. It is also very, very important to figure that out, okay? So, and get your summaries reviewed. Now you got to practice this question. So whatever information that I have provided to you, based on the author's analysis, which of the following most logically explains why global disruption is likely to continue in near future. The failure of international institutions to enforce peace and development, the growing influence of powerful global leaders who are reshaping the international order, the decline in global economic output due to climate change and pandemics, the inability of modern strategic tools to cope with rising inflation and unemployment. Now, if you would not have read the passage, okay, if you would not have read the passage, tell me, is it easy to eliminate any of this? No. All of these options are very, very correct independently if you view them individually. But you got to relate it to the context that author is putting forth. And what is the viewpoint that author is putting forth? That the much of the disruption that you see right now is caused by the actions of global leaders, big leaders, super leaders, and that is how B is going to be the correct answer. Whereas A, C, and D, though are factually correct, though are factually evident, yet do not follow what author is trying to say in the given passage. And this is the nitty gritty, or this is the detailing, this is the micro analysis of editorials that will be done by me across a lot of videos throughout this particular session, which will help you in gain that, in gaining that kind of strength, gaining that kind of aptitude, or gaining that kind of technical viewpoint, which will help you to crack logical reasoning, current affairs, legal aptitude questions wherever inferential deduction is involved. Okay, knowledge is one aspect that is required in CLAT, that's not disputed, but this is a skill set which will come only through rigorous practice and rigorous mentorship. So we are going to do that. And if you're liking this particular format, do not forget to tell me that in the comment section, because that is how our team decides who will come and whose sessions will come. And not exactly in that format, because this is a new initiative that I'm starting. So obviously your viewpoints, your comments, everything will play a huge role in developing this particular training routine on YouTube channel. So moving further ahead, try to ascertain the arguments raised by the author. Now this is the third aspect that you should try, that what are the arguments that the author is raising. So if I break down this particular editorial, you will find that there is a phenomena to overturn existing order. So what is this author is talking about? What exactly does the author mean by this word phenomena to overturn existing order? What is cauldron of unexpected consequences? What is the meaning of the word cauldron of unexpected consequences? So if you read this particular paragraph, okay, now I will try to summarize this particular paragraph, where he will say, the author is saying that there are certain parallels, which means coexisting at the same time, exist for the state of affairs, at least in the recent period. Many also hew to the view that this is the beginning of a new phenomena in the history of the world, one which has the potential to not only disrupt but also overturn the existing order. Such a situation, many also believe, would be very different. Now please understand, author does not believe, many believe. Author is only putting their viewpoints. Would be very different from what had existed since early 21st century, which was marked by considerable turbulence. Now this particular thing is going to be very, very different than what you witnessed in the starting of the 21st century. US since 1945 was known as the fountainhead of democracy, is now itself beginning to witness disruption of a kind that it has not seen in recent centuries, which means US is undergoing so much challenges, facing so much disruptions internally, externally, that was not witnessed or anticipated by United States of America before. One consequence, as a result of which there has been a rise in the tensions between US and several other countries. And out of this, most important, however, is that the situation is leading to what some experts estimate to be cauldron of unexpected consequences, which means they never had an idea that this will be the setback, this will be the drawback, or this could also be one of the outcomes. Today, US appears like a nation which is divided, seen as a pillar of democratic stability. It is currently grappling with profound internal divisions. So that's one argument that the author is raising, that United States of America is undergoing a lot of challenges, facing a lot of challenges internally. This, as a result, had an adverse impact, a bura impact on relations with other countries across the globe. And इसका क्या कारण है? One reason for this is no doubt Mr. Trump's new tariff war. So internal divisions are there in America, which is affecting relations with other nations, and how this particular relation with other nations thing is anticipated? Tariff war. There are new tariff wars, okay, which demonstrates a profoundly transactional approach. So transactional approach as per author is positive or negative? Transactional approach as per author is obviously negative, because सिर्फ आप अर्थव्यवस्था पे डिपेंडेंट है, लेन देन पे डिपेंडेंट है, आप उसके कंसीक्वेंस और उसके इम्पैक्ट को क्यों नहीं देख रहे चल रहे? The impact of which has been turned to turn the world upside down. This is having unsettling effect on global trade. Already leading economists assess that impact of tariffs has led to sharp decline in the growth potential of US and brought down its GDP. So what you were trying to use to disrupt the global order is basically now has started to disrupt the economy of United States of America itself. Okay, now practice this particular question. Which of the following best explains the central argument of the passage regarding the changing role of the United States in global order? A. United States is regaining its Lord status as the sole global superpower. Notice the word superpower. This particular statement is out of context, is not mentioned here. Okay, internal divisions within the US have strengthened its democratic institutions. Internal divisions within any country cannot strengthen its democratic institutions, hence eliminated. The US, which was once seen as a stable democratic power, is now experiencing internal disruption that is weakening its global leadership role, is directly mentioned in the passage. The tariff war initiated by the US has improved its trade balance and global influence, and this is contradictory to the passage. And these are the two things, out of context and contradictory. These are the two common, you can say, tools that I am giving you right now will always help you in logical reasoning to eliminate, or you can say reduce the number of chances of marking an incorrect option. So there would be, out of 4 options, there would be one option which would be out of context. There would be one option which would be completely contradictory to the author's viewpoint. Eliminate them both. Now you are left with 2. If you are somehow being trained, or if you are one of the aspirants who only catches important words, जो सिर्फ terms पकड़ता है और उसको मार्क करने की कोशिश करता है, तो आप ये समझिएगा this strategy is not going to work. क्योंकि इंटरनल डिविजन्स आपने पकड़ा तो ये तो पैसेज में वर्ड था, लेकिन उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट को अगर नहीं पकड़ा तो आप गलत कर देंगे, झटके में आप इंटरनल डिवीजन पढ़ के बी मार्क कर देंगे, राइट? ऐसा मत करिएगा. वन ऑफ द मोस्ट कॉमन सिली मिस्टेक्स आई सी in these kids who are trying to, you can say, ace CLAT examination. Don't do that. Okay. And in this case, there is this another editorial which talks about how United States is unwilling to shoot himself in the foot. Recently, US has attacked educational institutions where it has targeted foreign students who contribute somewhere around 40 billion to the US economy, and out because of which attacking universities like Harvard and Columbia, stopping funding to them. The state sponsored education that was going on in Harvard and Columbia is basically stopped. Close to $1 billion aid had been stopped by Trump administration going to these institutions, and ultimately you see the intrinsic capabilities of United States of America, which basically is the brain, which basically students are the brain child of America. They basically are political thinkers, scientists, and all of that, somehow are getting affected because of this, and this will ultimately damage America itself. In the meantime, what you see in Europe and West Asia, again a very tumultuous situation, a very disoriented positioning where Europe is not having the means and the fervor, or you can say the capacity to defend itself, and it's completely relying on United States of America. And now United States of America has changed its particular you can say priority sets, and Ukraine is no more the priority, European security is no more the priority, NATO expansion is no more the priority. Basically, America right now is trying to heckle Middle Eastern countries, for that matter Iran and China. These are the two focal areas that America has right now. Under Joe Biden, there was certain focus, there was huge impetus given to what is going on in South America. There was huge impetus given on European conditions, but right now the paradigm is shifting, and it is being shifted no more than Trump's ascendancy. And this is what has been mentioned in this particular passage. The situation now it talks about after Europe, the author goes and discusses what is going on in West Asia. Now, West Asia is not only Israel alone, is not only countries around Mediterranean Sea, but obviously it starts with Israel. Now, Israel, there is no peace treaty, there is no possibility of peace and negotiation between Israel and Palestine. In fact, Israel is now increasing its mandate. Israel is basically now demanding such territories which are not its own. For that matter, Israel is now preparing to have its permanent military positioning in Syria, and expand the presence of IDF across Syria. And this was not anticipated. This is a very unwelcome situation for the global world, and Western countries, including European countries as well as America, is silent on this crisis, is in fact exacerbating the political crisis, the economic crisis, the humanitarian crisis that is right now taking a very downside turn in West Asia. Moving further ahead, if we go and these are the three aspects which are mentioned, that the Trumponomics, which means Trump economics on education, is basically hurting the long term aspects of US. European uncertainty. The European Union is now lost in its own shadows. It lacks the capability to defend itself. US and West are silent, which is worsening the crisis on West Asia. Now it resembles a virtual pogrom, which means there is an online targeted attack. There is an information warfare going on with respect to victimizing Israelis and criminalizing Palestinian refugees or Palestinian interests. All of this is going on right now. Moving further ahead, there is this practice question which you should follow from this editorial. Which of the following can be most logically inferred from the passage above? Okay, US educational institutions are thriving due to increased foreign students enrollments. How? Incorrect. Against the passage. Contradictory. US foreign and domestic policies under Trump are contributing to global and institutional instability. Now, this can be one of the viewpoints. Okay, how US is approaching Trumponomics is basically affecting global and institutional instability. Can be the correct one. Europe has completely severed its ties with NATO due to Ukraine crisis. Factually incorrect. Okay, it does not look correct. Israel has seized its military operation in West Asia under international pressure. We wish Israel would have done that. So out of this, we are only left with B. I hope you would all agree. And if you are marking right options till now, do let me know that you are enjoying this particular session. Your answers and your thinking ability is getting improved. Obviously, this is going to be a very long drawn video. Like all of my videos, I don't know how to create a particular session within 10 minutes. I really do not know that. And trust me, LPT team is very much cooperative. It is helping me to learn and understand that dynamics as well. कहते हैं लंबी videos channel पे चलती नहीं है, थोड़ी छोटी videos बनाया करिए. Well, I don't know how to do that. So still I'm learning on that part. In this case, elsewhere, it basically goes on further, and it talks about what is going on in the Syria. You can say the political situation in Syria is also very, very critical, because Ahmad al-Shara, the new leader, has taken such illogical steps and measures, which is ultimately going to lead to fall of Syria, collapse of Syrian government, collapse of Syrian regime, and basically will create inroads for Israel to expand its stranglehold over the region. Ethiopia and Eritrea basically have also crises have re-emerged in North Africa. Also, the third important aspect is that it is talking about what is going on internally in Turkey as well. It is also very, very difficult, because Recep Tayyip Erdogan has created a tempest by arresting his principal political opponent before elections. Okay, I believe his name is Öcalan, and you will also read about that, right? And Israel right now is basically contemplating a strike to destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. Meanwhile, the rise of Islamic State again is creating a lot of problem. In fact, author goes on to further say that the recent attack in Pahalgam, where 26 innocent Indians were lost, right? 28 innocent lives were lost in Pahalgam, okay, is attributed to the rise of Islamic State, because Islamic State recently has, affiliated. The affiliations of Islamic State have moved out of West Asia, and they are planning series of attacks in Mozambique, Congo, pockets of North Africa, extending their activities in Afghanistan, and as of now we can also see its offshoots in India. Now ISIS and Al-Qaeda are two old terror outfits जिनके ऊपर सबकी नजर है, लेकिन अब कुछ नए terror outfits भी हैं, नए campaigns भी हैं जो निकल के इस चीजों से आ रहे हैं. Some are the leftover of the past, such as Al-Qaeda and IS. And many are being sponsored by new affiliates. The latest 26 people were killed. Latest attack on tourists in Pahalgam in Kashmir on 22nd April, in which 26 people were killed. The Basaran Meadow incident that happened is a latest example out of this. Also, ubiquitous means always present. China-Taiwan problem remains unresolved. The crisis is even deepening, and basically China is now preparing for offensive, because America is right now not giving priority to what is going on in Asia, and this is basically creating an opportunity for China, which is increasing its intent at present to try to solve its economic woes. So why is China so much assertive in the Indo-Pacific region, or so much assertive in South Asian region for that matter, where it is heckling with Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, and trying to expand its its geostrategic presence in that region. It's simply because it has certain economic challenges, जिसका मेन पॉइंट क्या है कि उसको एक्सेस इन द इंडियन ओशन चाहिए, शॉर्टर रूट चाहिए नेवल ट्रेड करने के लिए, सिक्योर रूट चाहिए. तो इसीलिए चाइना इस सिचुएशन को एक्सप्लॉइट कर रहा है. And to India, while it might seem that the recent Hindi Chini Bhai Bhai and Ladakh का जो discussion हुआ, India might want to believe that everything is all right with China, right? We are okay with China, and China is not going to attack on our borders, while the threat can be looming large as of now, and India must be prepared for any adverse outcome that may follow, because you really cannot trust what China is doing right now, right? Because China, as of now, we see has demonstrated, had started to demonstrate its naval strength in the Indian and Pacific Ocean, and is pushing across the 9-dash line, which is in South China Sea, by venturing into the Southern Pacific also. It has increased its presence, it has increased its number of submarines in the Indian Ocean region, and the Asian region hence remains wide open, needing India to be on its guard against any and all eventualities. So at the end of the editorial, author is coming down to India itself. Okay, following this, now there are certain inputs, summary parts that I have created. So basically, you try to write this down in your notes copy, go through these particular points, pause the video, read them. Whatever have I explained is already mentioned here. Going to that, taking this particular session forward, there are certain questions that you need to practice before I wrap this session. So based on the developments in West Asia, what is the most likely consequence of Israel disbanding Syria's administrative structure under Ahmad al-Shara? What is the most likely consequence of Israel disbanding Syria's administrative structure under Ahmad al-Shara? It will help Syria consolidate democratic power? No. It makes it easier for Israel to dominate the region? Yes. It will lead to peace negotiations? No. It will stabilize the region? No. If IS affiliates are moving out of West Asia and attacking regions in Africa and Asia, what can be logically inferred? That IS has been completely defeated? No. IS is transitioning into a global terror network? Maybe yes. IS is now recognized as legitimate political entity? No. Terror attacks will be confined to the Middle East? No. And very easy, very basic, very easy, right? It's very easy to solve, and that is how we are going to practice, because if you continue to do easier things more often than not, and trying and stop cutting down on chasing difficult things, I think much of the comprehension can be understood and adapted and practiced this way. So first, we should focus on simpler things. We should focus to create simple summaries. We should focus to read editorials without timers, and gradually we can expand our horizons, and you can push our limits and go into deeper difficult zones, right? So if India believes that recent border accords with China imply peace, which of the following weakens that belief the most? If India believes that India-China is at peace right now, which of the following statement would weaken? Now for weakening, what is important? Weakening either can be any statement which is out of context. Weakening can be any statement which is contradictory to the notion, contradictory to the context of the author, context of the passage basically. All right, weakening statements, or it is basically contradicting to the argument of the author. Okay, or weakening statements are anything which the passage is talking about certain possibilities, and possibilities will become impossible. Possibilities will become impossible if such a statement would be considered. So weakening statements के लिए ये सारी चीजें आपको दिमाग में लेके चलनी चाहिए, right? तो जो भी ऑथर के मेन पॉइंट को कमजोर करेगा, right? कमजोर क्या करेगा? India has signed similar treaties with Pakistan in the past. So it is basically talking about India and China, and you are relating it with Pakistan. Now this Pakistan is not even in the context, so out of context की वजह से A हो जाएगा क्या? No, you have to, in weakening arguments, what is the argument basically about? Who is the subject? India-China relation. What is the subject? India-China relation. So any option with respect to India-China relation will be considered to be correct. China is still increasing submarine presence in the Indian Ocean. Indian Ocean closer to India, indirectly associating with China to India. US has improved trade relations with India, again choosing a particular subject which is not related to the subject of weakening argument. China's trade deficit with India is narrowing. Now China's trade deficit is narrowing, okay, which means that India is exporting more to China. Importing less to China is not reflective of peace, because when we talk about border accords, you're basically talking about defense crisis, not economic crisis, and that is again relating the object to the subject. Again, you will come to this. B is the safer choice to go with. So I hope this particular practice was meaningful, and we'll continue to take a lot of sessions. I'll continue to push forth a lot of editorials like this, where you will be able to create summaries. Now, if obviously each and every editorial cannot be discussed at length like this, बट या इस हफ्ते के 3-4 एडिटोरियल के ऊपर एक्सप्लेनर वीडियोस बिल्कुल दिए जा सकते हैं फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट यूट्यूब चैनल पे. एंड यू ऑल नो दैट यू गाइज आर मोस्ट वेलकम एट इंदौर सेंटर. वेल, अगर ये वीडियो आपको अच्छा लगा है, यू हैव लाइक दिस पर्टिकुलर वीडियो, डू टेल मी योर व्यू पॉइंट्स इन द कमेंट सेक्शन. This was Harsh Vardhan Sir signing off from today's session. See you guys in the next.